It's journalism.
I'm digging deep for that journalism. I graduated with that degree, and I'm going to put it to good use here today. And
Daytime
somebody
Emmy
else,
coming soon.
yeah, yeah, somebody else who got a journalism degree puts it to great use every single day is the person that's going to join us right now. Let's roll out that red, white, and blue carpet for one of the area's greatest reporters, I think, of all time, and certainly at the time being one of Wellsville's greatest exports. And you can see her every day pretty much on Channel 21 WFMJ, our proud sponsor and partner right here of YSN. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor and a pleasure to bring in Brittany Bissell. Hey,
Hey
Britt.
guys, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be on. And
Well,
DJ,
we
I
are
have to tell you, when I first logged on, I heard you singing Seinfeld, and I love that you're a fan of that show because so am I. That's like my favorite show of all time. It's like my comfort show. I don't know if you remember the episode where like Elaine's dance moves, where she was
Oh yeah.
like, oh my God, it's my favorite. Yeah.
I love it. I'm glad that somebody got that because Anthony was
Yeah,
lost
I
in
was out. I
space.
was like, whoop.
Oh, come on. Come on, Anthony. You got to get up on your
Sorry, I
side.
was over there watching Friends when Seinfeld was on.
Britt, I mean, you've been in this area your whole life. I mean,
Yeah.
you grew up playing sports, volleyball, basketball, cheerleading
Uh-huh.
as well.
Yeah.
What I mean to keep going in sports, what was your ultimate goal? Was it to be a sports reporter, or what was it when you left high school? Had ambition to stay in sports. Why was it, and have you reached it?
So I will tell you, when I was little, like I grew up loving basketball. I love the game of basketball. But when I was little, like I had this big ambitious goal that like I was going to play in the WNBA someday. Once I got a little bit older and realized that like I'm way too slow for that and like I'm not good enough, then it kind of became like I knew that I wanted to work in sports. So I kind of had to figure out like what that was going to look like for me. Like I knew that I was never going to be like a nurse or a teacher or any of like the traditional things that you see people go on to be. So for me, like I started seeing like people like Erin Andrews and Michelle Tafoya on the sidelines. And so I became like really interested in how they got to where they are. So I started doing my research and like from that point on, I was like, okay, like I want to go on to become a sports reporter. That was pretty early on. I would say probably in like the junior high age that I kind of figured that out. So, but you know, like it was kind of difficult too because being from like the little small old town of Wellsville, like people are like, oh, you have to have connections for that. Like, I'm not sure that that would ever work out for you. And then in college, I ended up interning here at WFMJ. And as soon as I graduated, it was probably like 2 months later, a position came open here when I worked here the first time because I'm actually back for a second stint. And like Dana called me. So I actually just ended up being in the right place at the right time and like it all worked out. So I'm super excited to be where I am.
With all that being said, I think it's easy to say that sports had a major impact in your life, even at an early age. What was it about sports, do you think, that really kind of impacted your life? If you had to kind of put into words the impact that sports has made, what would you kind of put in? How would you put that into words?
Well, it's been a really big part of my life because ever since I was born, so my family is like diehard Dallas Cowboys fans. So like one of the first things I learned like at a young age is like we love football, we watch football. So like I relate it to like family, like it brings my family together. And then also I grew up with an older brother. He's 7 years older than me. So like he played like every sport imaginable. So I grew up going to his games and like kind of following in his footsteps. And it just was like such a big thing for me growing up just to be involved in sports. I started playing, I played basketball and like, you know, that camaraderie with, you know, you make so many friends playing sports and I just loved it.
All right. So, what have been your favorite assignments so far in your career?
I would say my favorite assignments. So probably like opening days. So I did Guardians opening day, and I want to say like 2017. That was really cool. Um, but I think my favorite, like I really love just covering high school sports. I think it's super fun. 2022, I followed Canfield basically all the way to the state championship. That was super cool to see Coach Pav get his first state championship. Brock Lowry was honestly just one of the coolest and best players that, I've had the privilege of covering. But I also, like, back in 2016, I worked for 93.7 The Fan in Pittsburgh. So I had the privilege of covering like the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Pirates, the Penguins when they were on their Stanley Cup run. So I had the opportunity to do some really cool things whenever I was covering them. I mean, to interview like Coach Tomlin and Ben Roethlisberger, and like being there, watching Sidney Crosby's greatness in those Stanley Cup runs. That was something that's definitely really cool, and I'll never forget those moments.
Notice, Anthony, she said privilege to cover those teams, so I don't want to hear your comeuppance. Okay, let's calm down with the Pittsburgh talk down. Okay, you got two Pittsburghers here now.
Anthony, you're Kansas City, right?
She's a Dallas fan. I don't know if she's a Pittsburgher.
Yeah. Well,
Dang it, Britt!
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Blame my parents, born and raised. I don't know why. Like, my dad's from the Pittsburgh area, but he grew up hating the Steelers, loving the Cowboys. So, like, one of the first things that was instilled is like, we're Cowboys fans around here. So,
in the words of every Pittsburgher right now, your dad is at. He's at.
In that same line, though, Britt, you've had the chance to go to a lot of high schools, cover a lot of high school teams. Is there one that when you get that assignment, you're going there that night that really gets you excited? Like, I'm going to this gym, or I'm going to see this team or this program?
Yeah, I think it varies from sport to sport. I would say, like, I always love covering Canfield. South Range, I think, has like amazing athletics across the board. If you send me to a Warren JFK basketball game, I'm thrilled. Like, I think every year they have great teams. This year I love covering them, and Nick Ryan obviously really stands out. But Canfield basketball was really fun to cover this year. So, like, you go back in the day, the first time I worked here, I mean, being at Warren Harding games and covering Lynn Bowden, I mean, I think he's one of the best athletes to ever come out of the area. Definitely really enjoyed covering that program as well. So yeah, there's quite a few, but I would say Canfield it definitely stands out for me. I'm always excited to go over to Canfield football games, to Canfield basketball games.
All right, so we all know that football rules the roost around here. It is a 24/7 job in the news and sports industry that time of year. But for you, this had to be really cool to see the revolution of girls sports come up through and the attention that it's getting. What has that been like for you? Because you've kind of been at the fringe the entire time. I mean, back in the day, I don't want to say that we're old, but there was no attention paid really to girls sports, and now it's on every night on YSN. It's on every night for the highlights. What has that been like for you as a female in the industry to be able to help lead that revolution?
Yeah, well, it's really cool to as you guys know, I think that I'm the first full-time sports reporter to ever be hired at WFMJ. So that in itself is really cool. And I hope that it, just leads the way for plenty of people to come after me. But I mean, in terms of high school sports and girls' high school sports and the coverage it gets now, like, yeah, going back to when I was in high school, I mean, I don't know if my team was ever on the highlights. I mean, especially being from a small school. So like, to see what you guys do now, even to be able to give girls sports like a bigger platform where you're covering girls sports all the time. And then, I mean, you look at it now and like what we've seen with Caitlin Clark and the way that, women's college basketball and the WNBA is really in the limelight now. I mean, it's cool because I grew up watching the WNBA and women's basketball, like going back to like Pat Summitt's Tennessee Lady Vols and, the UConn days with like Diana Taurasi. But I mean, it just was not as big as what it is now. And, it's been super cool to be able to see that and how it's been able to grow and expand. And, I think we have in this area a lot of really good girls athletes. You think about like Dee Dee Ryan and Gianna Pompilia and our softball teams. I mean, you think about Fitch and Canfield, South Range. I mean, it's just been really cool to see these girls who go out and they're great athletes too, and finally be able to see them get the recognition that they deserve.
You talked about setting the bar for the women that come after you in the sports reporting field. What kind of things do you say to girls that are trying to grow up and look up to women in your shoes and want to be where you are? What kind of things do you say to them?
Well, I mean, I think one of the biggest things is, don't let anybody talk you out of it. It's a little bit more challenging. Like, it is going to be a little bit more challenging for you, but like, if you have it in your heart and you want to do it, like, absolutely go after it. I think find good people to be your mentors. Like, Dana has been such a great mentor for me. Like, he's been super welcoming and helpful. And when I first came in, like, Mike Ackelson was such a big help for me. And there's plenty of people, I can't name all of them. So, I mean, I think finding those mentors that you trust that are willing to help you. But like, if you have that drive and you want to do it, just stay with it. I mean, even when it's tough, when I first came in, like, my first year, I mean, it was such a struggle for me. I was so nervous all the time. It took me a while to like really settle in. So, I mean, just stay with it. And like, sometimes you have to kind of go through those difficult things to help you grow and get better, but you'll get there. And, just go for it, girlfriend. Whoever it is out there, go for it.
I love it. I love it. Nobody better than you, the trailblazer. I didn't know that you're the first full-time sports reporter. Hey, way to go, Britt. We're proud of you.
I didn't realize that either, but I mean, it's super cool. Yeah. So, I mean, I think when I first came on, it was like kind of a shock for some people, like they just weren't used to seeing it. It was like Dana and Mike, and they usually had someone else with them who wasn't a girl. So so I think but I think like people have really warmed up to me, and everyone's been super welcoming. So that's cool. So like, people get used to you.
I think the world is a happier place because you're on TV, Britt. Let's just be honest, all right? Mike Ackelson is a pretty human being, but I don't think he compares to you. Okay,
I love that.
We do too. He's one of us. We're grateful. And Dana, you're a handsome son of a gun too. Handsome sack of subs. Way to go, buddy. Let's go to one of the main reasons you're with us today. You have graciously accepted the opportunity to be a judge in the slam dunk competition at the All-Star game next Saturday.
Uh-huh.
A lot to live up to. Madison Tromler, Andrew DePaulo last year representing 21. This year it's you. Are you nervous? I know Madison got a little nervous. She threw up a low score on
I remember that. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. I don't want to get booed by anybody, so I have to be a gracious judge. But also, like, I grew up watching NBA All-Star Weekend religiously. My favorite part was the dunk contest. I will say, like, it's not what it used to be, but I love the dunk contest. So like, I'm super excited to be a part of it. I want to see a little creativity.
Okay. So the dunkers better be listening. They better be watching right now. What do you want to see? What makes a good dunk for you?
I think it's something where it's like, okay, they really thought that out. Like, that they came well prepared. It wasn't something that just like happened on the fly. Like, they came well prepared, and you're like, okay. So like, they really practiced that. They came with something good. They like went outside of the box a little bit. So that's what I like to see. Those are always my favorite dunks, when you see that creativity, that thoughtfulness, that effort there.
You already said that you don't want to be booed by anybody, and I don't think anyone would ever boo Brittany Bissell, by the way. If they did, they might be escorted from the gym right away.
Especially if they're wearing blue coat.
But what kind of judge do you think you're going to be? Are you going to be stiff and have your parameters that you're looking for, and if it's not there, you're not going to give the score, or are you going to give a little wiggle room?
I guess I'll be a little bit tough. Like, I can't be too lenient because I've seen a lot of dunks in my day. So it's like, I think I know what's a good dunk and what's not. So, I got to be a little bit tough. But again, I don't want to be booed. But yeah, like I said, I'm looking for creativity. I'm excited to be a part of it. I think it's going to be super fun. And I remember last year's the Nick Ryan show that he put on. So I'm excited to see what these guys come with and what happens.
We're still waiting on the champ to accept his invitation. Come on, Nick. Come on.
Come on, we need you.
Gotta defend.
I got my 10s ready for Nick Ryan.
I love it. We're trying to get do you remember last year when Gavin Gregory came out of the crowd because someone dropped out at the last minute and he was all in his street clothes and dunked it, just put it down? One of the greatest moments.
That's so cool. Yeah.
When you took the job, what has been your biggest, like, I really love this about the job, and what has been one of the bigger challenges about your job, Monday to Sunday?
I I think that like the thing that I love most is Friday night football. Like my days are so packed. It's like such an adrenaline rush. Like I come in, I go out, like I'm my own cameraman. I shoot my own live shots. So I usually go out to a game, like give a pregame report. I'll talk to coaches like earlier in the week to kind of, get an idea for their thoughts on the game. And then I do that. I usually shoot 3 games, and then it's like a rush to get back here, edit those. And then we have this big show that we go on air and do. But I think for me, like there's nothing better in this area than Friday night football. I love that. But I mean, there's just so many different things. You get sent out to cover a state championship. Like I did the softball state championships this past year. There's nothing better than that as well. I think the most challenging part is just like, the learning process when you first come into it. Like there's so many things that happen behind the scenes when you're anchoring. Like it's like getting the timing right, like getting used to having a producer yelling in your ear, like things that people at home don't see. So there's just a lot of that I think takes getting used to. Like thankfully I've been doing this for quite a few years now, so I'm kind of used to all of it now. The other thing I would just say is like the schedule. Like it feels like I leave here later every night. So like sometimes I'm leaving here, it's like 1 a.m. My bedtime's like 2:30 a.m. So people are like, you're insane. But it doesn't bother me too much though, just because I love my job and I love what I get to do every day. So it's not too bad.
Bro, we had classes together at YSU in that TCOM studio, and we know how rigorous that live studio can be inside YSU. How much did that TCOM prepare you for your job at WFMJ?
Yeah, I will say one of the cool things about going to school at YSU was being in that studio. But I think like the biggest thing for me was like I would stay after and work in the labs and like learn how to use the cameras and the editing systems and things like that. Like those are the real things that you have to learn to like do this job every day. Because like I mentioned, it's not, Dana has a photographer, but like for us new people that come in, like we have to do it all ourselves. So the more that you learn those things, like running your own camera, editing and stuff like that I was started learning at YSU, like you're way better off because that's just like a part of the everyday routine and things that we do here.
Britt, we can't thank you enough. You know how much we appreciate you every day, not just on days that you pop on here on YSN Live, but the inspiration that you are to girls everywhere, not only the ones that want to get into business, but ones that just want to be in sports. You are awesome. You are the best to do it. We can't appreciate you enough. Britt, thank you so much.
Thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate it. I'm big fans of yours too. Can't wait for Saturday to be a part of the dunk contest. And nobody boo me, okay?
No.
Hey, ejected. If you boo Britt Bissell, you're out.
I will wheel them out myself. All right.
Yeah. They're real intimidated by that, Ant. They're real intimidated. We got some big fellas coming in. Britt, thank you so much. Have fun tonight. Thanks for coming in early, by the way. We appreciate you. There she goes. Britt Bissell. Wow. She is incredible. And I mean, like, she is the most professional human being I think I've ever met. On the air, off the air. She's the same person. The best to do it. I'm telling you right now, I think that she is the GOAT in the Valley, and to trailblaze that position for women. I mean, that's incredible. I had no idea. I guess I just don't pay attention to that kind of stuff. I don't see in that way.